We are in Isaiah chapter 14, and got a few things going on here. So let's look at chapter 14, verse number 9. Hell from beneath is excited about you, to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you, all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. Hell, it's talking about Sheol, or the grave, the place of torment, and more torment there, I mean, just looking at that, who do y'all think is talking about there? Huh? It's talking about Satan. That's who it's talking about there. Remember, we've been talking about Babylon, and how sinful Babylon is. Well, if Babylon's all sinful and bad like that, well, who's the mayor of Babylon? Oh, slick, right? Verses 10 and 11. They all shall speak and say to you, have you also become as weak as we? Have you become like us? Your pomp is brought down to Sheol, and the sound of your stringed instruments, the maggot is spread under you, and worms cover you. He's just telling him, hey, look, dude, once you get here, you're out of there, buddy. You've got no pomp. You'll have no pride. You won't be anything anymore. Not that you're anything now. You think you're a lot. That's what got you in trouble to start with. But right now, when you get here, it's going to be that. And that's the thing, because they're talking to him and saying, they asked in the verse before, are you like us? So that's what it'll be. Verse number 12. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. Not that he's powerful enough to weaken the nations, but he's had enough influence to put enough sin on the nations that's where he's weakened the nations, by them not following Christ and following him. Satan's fall, it's full of pride. His whole deal was he intended to ascend to heaven. He actually said he was going to be higher than the clouds, and he wanted to place his throne above God's throne. He wanted to be the highest creature, and he was. Satan was at one time the highest creature that God ever made, he ever created. But he also was a Judas Iscariot too, okay? He turned on God and tried to set his will over God. Let's look at Luke chapter 10, verse 16. Got a couple of verses here. And he said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. When God cast him out, he didn't take the slow road. How fast is lightning, boys? That's how he retro-rocketed down right there, okay? He throwed him out. 1 John 3 and 8. He who sins is of the devil, for the devil has sinned from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. And he just wasn't going to do that. This guy was living. He was the number one guy in heaven and wanted more. Pride. Revelation 12, 7 through 9. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world. He was cast to earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So that's the devil's whole deal right there, y'all. He don't do nothing alone. If he comes to you, he has already sent demons and imps to get in your business, to make you weak so he can do what he wants to. You know, and when he leaves, that little old trouble and all that drama stuff is still going to roll around because he's going to try to get you in every way he can. You know, and I mean, this is him. This is Satan, Lucifer, old slick, old smutty face, whatever you want to call him. You know, so in all that, what do you think his greatest sin was? What do you think his greatest sin that cost him everything? What do you think it was? Huh? Pride. Pride, wanting to be something that he never could be. And, you know, you look at that and we kind of blow it off like that's the deal, but we can get in trouble in the very same way. You know, we want to tend sometimes to think more of ourselves than we ought to. We think we're way better people than we ought to think. We don't admit when we've got wrong. We don't admit when we've got issues and stuff. We just keep thinking that we're higher than we are. And that's really what he did. That's what got him in all his trouble. So it's something that we need to be a little careful about. Verses 13 and 14. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Well, Lucifer, he's kind of got 5 I will stuff he said there. I will this and I will that. And all of it led up to he was going to set himself over God, you know. This right here, when he's going on about this is, I guess, what you could call sin in embryo form, all right? This is where it's starting, all right? Before it ever even showed up on earth, it got started, right, somewhere. And it was I guess you could call it, this is where the evolution of sin started, you know. Men didn't evolve, but sin did. It started from this little deal right here and turned into what the world deals with now, okay? I mean, it started, he was just setting his will against God. As you know, and here's the thing. As free, moral creatures, we have that right. You and I have free will. We can make up our minds. We can set our minds against anything. We can choose to do whatever we think we can do if we can justify it, and it's right, you know. You know, as free moral creatures, that's what we do. Look at Isaiah 53:6. All we like sheep have gone astray. We've turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. You know, we all are sinners, you know, just like him. Now, some of us, you know, not near that bad, but God took all that on himself, all right? You know, and what is sin? Sin's everything contradictory to God's will. Murder is sin, you know. Anything that's contrary to God's will is sin. We can say that we don't want to, things we don't want to do, and we can tell God we don't want to do this and we don't want to do that, but, you know, that's just kind of like beating your head up against the wall because, you know, we all ought to know and understand that God will prevail, you know, one way or the other. You know, just telling him you don't want to do something, that's not much of an excuse. Look at Matthew 6 and 10. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. His kingdom done, his will be done, not mine and not yours. Satan had too much pride, went against God's will. He was a perfect being who just chose wrong. Too many of us are like him today. We put our own desires and our wants over God's desires. There's only 2 ways. Look at John 14:6. Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. You come to the Father or you don't. You know, I mean, that may sound pretty harsh when we say that too many of us are like Satan today, but hey, we are. Anytime we choose our will and our wants over what God has asked us to do or God has shown us to do, we're in the same boat. We're in the same boat. But we have the death of Christ. You know, if not, life would be a lot tougher. We live in God's universe. We breathe God's air. And I don't know about y'all, but I ain't never got a bill for sunshine. You know, I never got a bill that said you owe me for 65 years of life. You know, we're his creatures. And we need to realize, and we say we do a lot, but a lot of times I think we forget it, especially when we know who he is. We owe him. We owe him. He paid a debt I can't pay, so therefore I owe. You know, we just need to obey and to listen. Ourselves, just on ourselves, we can't obey him. So we got to have Christ. We got to have the Lord Jesus Christ in our life in order to hear, in order to listen, and to order to obey. You know, as a lost sinner, we can't do it. You got to have that new nature. Got to be born again. And then you learn how to listen and to follow. Verses 15, 16, and 17. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, is this man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners? Now, God is going to judge Satan still. It's going to happen. You know, and it's going to be a bad judgment, I'm sure. You know, I mean, it tells us what's going to happen to him. There's one thing waiting left for Satan that he's got coming to him, and that's a lake of fire. You know, and here's the thing, like it said in them earlier scriptures, when he gets to that lake of fire, guess what he's going to be like? He's going to be like every other sinner condemned to hell. You know, his name's going to be Satan, but only in namesake from that point on, okay? You know, God's plan so far, beyond the thinking and the bounds of this earth, not for you or for I to question it, you know. We just trust in him for for him to extend to us his mercy and grace and his love. And if we're not waiting on that and we're not trusting in that, then we're trying to be something else. We're trying to lead something else. We're trying to be more than we are. And we got to be careful with that, because y'all all know that as people, we're a prideful bunch, you know. It's easy for us to have a little bit more faith in ourselves than we really need to. And verse 18 is going to finish us up. My bad. Yeah, that's supposed to go with verse 18. You got it? Or I'll read it. Okie doke. I was doing so good, too. All the kings of the nations, all of them, sleep in glory, everyone in his own house. You know, Satan was controller of Babylon. In Luke 4, Satan offered the Lord's kingdoms, the Lord, kingdoms of this world. Look at Luke 4, verses 5, 6, and 7. And then the devil, taking him up on a high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said to him, all this authority I will give you and their glory, for this has been delivered to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. Therefore, if you will worship before me, it will all be yours. I love this piece of scripture because I think it's a farce, okay? Who did all that stuff belong to? No, it didn't belong to him. So he was going to give stuff that he wasn't rightful heir to. If there was one thing, if there was one country, one place that he had claim to, it was Babylon. You know? And the only thing God wanted to do with Babylon was to clean it up anyway. You know, so he basically had nothing to offer. Do what? Yeah, he was just trying to win anything he could for the side, because if he could get Jesus to take a deal like that, well then everything else would have been for nothing. You know, he would have beat. So, you know, and the thing about Babylon one day, it's going to be the rally spot. It's going to be the home base. It's going to be the gathering spot for all of the nations and all of the peoples, you know, against God. So, you know, this thing, him offering him the deal and telling him he was going to make him a big deal, he was just like the rest of the hucksters. He was trying to make deals on stuff that he didn't even own, you know. All this stuff here in Isaiah like this, I mean, it's telling us, and it's giving us a pretty pointed view of what the devil has before him, you know. And his times are coming. So will we live in and be able to see all this stuff and know when it's happening? I don't know. All I know is this. Every Bible I ever read said it's going to happen, you know. So it's coming. What we got to do, we got to be careful, is we don't fall as bait to the same traps, you know. Even Satan, because he was never intended. See, that's what you got to remember. We think Satan is Satan on purpose. Satan is Satan by choice. Okay? All right. Cool enough. Well, thanks everybody for watching and listening. We appreciate y'all. If we can do something for you, y'all holler at us. You know, let us know you're out there. Y'all come see us on Wednesdays. Be here at 6 o'clock. Eat with us. Fellowship with us.